your hosts, Tony and Dak. And in today's episode, we are getting to our final two picks. Well, not our final two, but this is the second to last of our offseason deep dives. If you haven't been following, we've been doing a top six picks for the offseason. That just being, we're going through the teams that are in the top six of picks and doing a little offseason deep dive for them because they're the ones that really needed to make the biggest splashes this offseason. And we're just going into a deeper dive because they're the teams that sucked, so you probably didn't watch them last year, unless you're a fan. And don't come at me saying your team sucks because my team's picking number one. So, yeah, if you're a Raiders fan, Cardinals fan, or Jets fan, or is this Raiders,
This is
Jets,
Titans. We're at 4.
Titans? No, Cardinals, Titans.
We have 2 more.
We got
We
two
have 2
more.
more after this.
Okay, we got two more. Sorry. My brain is not working. Anyways, we are doing the Tennessee Titans today, as you can see from the title, which is probably why you clicked on it. And you might have clicked off already because of this intro. But the series is basically just a deep dive into the top six picks of the offseason. Getting into it before we get to the slides and all that fun stuff, we got the key players. Typically with these last, well, as we have had with the last couple of teams, there's not a lot of key players here. They picked number one last year, being Cam Ward, their second-year quarterback, is number one among key players. And then Jeffrey Simmons, their all-star defensive tackle. I think he's honestly slept on, is their second key player, in my opinion. I may be missing somebody, so if you're a Titans fan, let us know down below if there's a guy that we should be keeping our eyes on and all that fun stuff. Also, as we're going through this, if I miss somebody, or if you guys just know more about the Titans than I do, which is probably a good chance because I don't think I watched a single Titans game last year, let us know down below. Don't be mean. All right, I just want to know ball too. So
I think the releasing of L'Jarius Sneed
we're
is
gonna get there.
also
Yep,
kind of crucial
we're
as
gonna
well.
we're gonna be talking about that. So as we've been going through this series, switch the wrong slide. As we're going to be going through this series, the slides have been changing a little bit because of just where we're at in the free agency timeline. But I have been doing my best to switch around and add new fun things into these slides. So without further ado, let's get into the Tennessee Titans off-season deep dive, kicking us off with their front office. Um, they fired Brian Callahan last year and brought in Robert Saleh, who he then brought in at offensive coordinator, Brian Daboll, and Gus Bradley at defensive coordinator. For those of you that are unaware of who Robert Saleh is, let me give you a little bit of a
Dog,
background for
dog,
him.
dog,
He's a dog for
dog.
defensive minded, but his last head coach stint did not go so well with the New York Jets. He is from the
Not his
49ers,
fault.
for those of you that did not know. And as Dak
Dog.
and I have mentioned, is that he is a defensive minded man. Really has had really good defenses throughout his entire career. So
Has taken guys that were just kind of going like this in their career and made them like this. And when what he did to Dre Greenlaw, what he did for Dre Greenlaw, um, and Fred Warner, just like those
Nick Bosa,
guys boosted their careers to where they were able to be the players they are for the years that he was there before he went over to New York and then came back
yeah,
and helped helped a defense that was struggling very bad with injuries and still made him be able to compete. So
yeah.
looking at the roster, I think he's going to have some fun pieces.
Oh yeah, Jeffrey Simmons is going to be really fun for him to use. Getting to the offensive coordinator and Brian Daboll, he's from the Giants. For those of you that did not know, he was their head coach. But before he was a head coach, he started in the NFL as an offensive coordinator with the Cleveland Browns in 2009. And back to the Giants, he was their head coach from 2022 to the last season. And then Gus Bradley, somebody who I have a soft spot in my heart for because he was, once upon a time, he was a Raiders defensive coordinator. He never blew anybody out of the water, but you could trust that he was a middle of the pack defense every year, and his scheme is simple, very heavily cover three oriented. So players were just able to play free and play fast. So that's something to keep your eye on for the Titans. But getting into his background. He's from Indy. Well, last time he coached was in Indy. He took last season off. Defensive coordinator since 2009 as well. So similar to Brian Dable. And like I mentioned, he is heavy cover three. Um, He was also on the coaching staff for the Legion of Boom uh, teams as well, which is a big thing if you are still into those kinds of things. Do you have any uh, notes on these guys, or do you just want to get to the next spot?
I really like Dabble here. I think he's kind of gonna take another prove it year. Like, hey, I'm gonna have a decent offense with these guys. As we're getting into later, the guys that he's brought in that are kind of familiar with his
Yeah.
system. I think he's a very good offensive minded guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what Salah can do for Gus Bradley is kind of revive his career a little bit, because of the stint that Gus had with the Colts, where he had some pretty defenses. Um, I think he's going to be able to revive his career a little bit, and maybe Gus Bradley's going to get another shot at being a defensive minded head or defensive minded or a defensive coordinator for an offensive minded team, if that
Okay.
makes
Yeah.
sense. Because look where he came from. Shane's obviously a offensive minded
Yeah.
head coach. Gus is kind of just very in control of the defense. I think with Robert's going to be able to help Gus Bradley, and then Dable clearly Brian, there was no problem with that offense last year in New York with the
Outside of them
Giants.
using
So,
Jackson Dart as a battering ram.
um, well, I think
If
whatever
Cam
you do with
Ward's
your
running
pick,
QB sneaks and QB draws, I think the Titans fans might be rioting by week
um,
6, week 3
um,
even.
but I don't think there's going to be a problem with their offense as much. I think if you get those right pieces, clearly
Hmm.
Dable has proven that he can do a lot with some young guys. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. I kind of like this front office a little bit more than I like some front offices.
Hmm.
So especially some of the front offices that we've talked about on the series.
Yeah. My one last note, similar to what you were saying with Gus Bradley and Robert Sala, I think it might have an inverse reaction or an inverse kind of chemistry thing. I think Gus Bradley will bring a like stabilizing force to Robert Sala's defense, just because Gus Bradley has always been like middle of the pack. He's never been bad. I think that's going to be a big help for Robert Sala instead of having to worry about, oh crap, this guy doesn't really know what he's doing or that kind of thing. He's going to be able to be like, okay, we're a high floor, maybe a low ceiling until you add my stuff to it. So that will allow Robert Sala to have a more like over umbrella esqueness to the team like a head coach should. So where he can just be like, okay, here's what I need you to do, and he'll be able to trust Gus Bradley with it, and then he'll also just be able to be getting into our next slide with our notable moves for this Tennessee Titans team. They were heavy with the New York Giants. They had Dak jokingly said that they were the New York Titans, or did you call it the Tennessee Giants? One of the two.
Tennessee
Yeah.
Giants.
They brought in two different Giants players in Cordell Flott, a cornerback for 3 years and $45 million, Wandale Robinson at receiver, 4 years for $70 million, and then their other signings were Alante Taylor, 3 years for 58, and John Franklin Myers, 3 years, 63 million. Um, but they
Don't be
also,
surprised. They also brought in Daniel Bellinger, who don't be surprised if they bring in a running back and they kind of get or yeah, they bring in a running back this offseason, and they kind of go two tight end sets or something like that.
mhm.
Don't be surprised if Daniel Bellinger is still catching touchdown passes, because he finds himself in some decent spots. And they also brought in Kylan Granson, who's a
Mhm.
huge tight end, played for the Colts. They
Yeah,
have some weapons there with tight ends. If they want to get big, you know, this team could get big.
yeah. Um, so Alante Taylor was from the Saints. He was a blitzing demon. Whenever he was blitzed a lot from his coach is slipping my mind right now, but the old Saints head coach and the current Bears defensive coordinator, he blitzed Alante Taylor a lot, and he didn't connect a
I
lot in
s-
terms of
no.
sacks, but was definitely solid. Wandale Robinson. So, funnily enough, I was watching a YouTube video yesterday of these guys that were just mentioning some players you should trade for dynasty fantasy football. Just trying to get a little bit of tidbits of information. Funnily enough, they had Wandale
I wouldn't
Robinson.
credit these guys. I wouldn't credit these guys because, geez, Louise, your trades have been terrible.
Oh, you're full of garbage. I'm cooking right now. Wandale Robinson was in their video, and they kind of swayed me on Wandale. Just the fact that the Titans are low in who they can target, and Wandale Robinson being a guy who's been a stabilizing force for these Giants offenses. But outside of their signings, they also traded for Jermaine Johnson, so they had a heavy influence on their defense. And then they released L'Jarius Sneed, which is probably why they picked up two. Next, we have notable holes. So these are just places on their team that they still need to fill, whether it be in the draft or post draft with future free agents as well. I put a big emphasis on offensive skill positions. They're still thin at receiver in terms of proven players. Kamir DK and Alik Iomanner were both bright-ish spots for the Titans late last season when Calvin Ridley went down. But speaking of Calvin Ridley, he's still on the roster, and I think they should be looking to phase him out. I don't think he should be their number one receiver, and that could be why they brought in Wandale Robinson. And it could just be like a longer takeoff period for those two young guys. And then they're either hurt or old at running back. Now, don't take this as I don't like Tyjae Spears or Tony Pollard. I just think both of them have, well, in terms of Tony Pollard, he's an older running back. Running backs are considered old at like 27 years old. And if I'm not mistaken, Tony Pollard is on that range.
I think he's 30. He's got to be closer to 30.
Tony Pollard is 28 years old, so he is considered a older running back. And then Tyjae Spears is somebody who I've been a fan of since his rookie season.
Can't stay healthy,
but he can't stay healthy. I remember watching the Raiders-Titans game way back when he was a rookie, and when he would come in on third down for Derrick Henry, and he just looked electric catching the football and going for little bits of yards. He never did anything crazy afterwards because at that point the Titans were dog water, and the Raiders were a little bit better than they should have been in 2023. But he just hasn't been able to stay healthy, playing one full season, being his rookie season. Since then, he's only played 12 and 13 games, but he's also only started 3 games, so that could be part of it. But I think Tyjae Spears, if he can stay healthy, could be a good player. But I also think that running back could be a spot where they fill later. And then the last notable hole for them is offensive line. Now, I'm not going to go out here and say that I know that they have an offensive line problem, but I do know that Cam Ward was sacked 55 times last year. Whether that be
a problem.
It could have also been he held onto the ball too long because his receivers stunk. It could be a mixture of things. So I'll let the Titans fans know that are watching this. Let me know if the offensive line is bad. So then we can come back, hash it out, be like, okay, this is something we can build off of later if we're talking about the Titans. I know they have some spots that are not ideal, but I've heard Peter Skoronski, I remember him coming out, was a big name. And then who was their tackle? Their tackle is somebody else that I know was J.C. Latham, was also another highly drafted player. But since they've been drafted, I don't really remember much. So, after notable holes, we have the fun part, what everybody clicks here for. I forgot to mention it earlier, but in every offseason's deep dive video, we do a mock draft, 3-round mock draft. And in this one, I have the Tennessee Titans picking at number 4, Sonny Styles. So, in the last couple of videos, if you've been following, Arvell Reese is falling down the draft board. And here's why. 2 reasons, actually. 1, scheme fit. So, he wants to be an edge rusher in the NFL. That's what he's slated to be. I don't think he's a 4-3 edge rusher. Every one of these top teams has run a 4-3 defense. And Arvell Reese is just not built to be a 4-3 edge. He's very raw as a prospect on the edge. He's played off-ball linebacker basically, if I'm not mistaken, every season outside of this season when they try to move him to edge. Sonny Styles, on the other hand, fills in a gap for the Tennessee Titans. Man, I need to get better at breathing while I'm talking. Sonny Styles is going to be a benefit for them in the coverage at linebacker. They have a young linebacking core outside of Cody Barton, and I think Sonny Styles fits in there, being a former safety, bringing that athletic freakedness to the Tennessee Titans, as well as the coverage ability, could be a big benefit for them, especially with these two big defensive minded guys heading that beast. Emmanuel McNeil Warren is just a beast out of Toledo. Somebody who does everything. He's not a one trick pony. He's a big hybrid player. He's going to make the tackles for you, and he makes some turnovers as well. Definitely somebody that you should be excited for if you guys pull off in the draft. And then round 3, either remind me, it's Elijah Surratt, right? That's his name from IU. Yeah. Either Elijah Surratt or Gennings Dunker. I think it's either Gennings or Jennings.
If Surratt, if Surratt goes in this 3rd round, I'd be surprised.
He was there almost every time. So the way I did this, the way I've done all these mock drafts,
I don't think he's worth a 3rd. I think he's a 4th rounder.
Okay. Well, the way I've done this is just so everybody understands. I sit there and I run through like 10 simulations, and sometimes I'll restart it after the first pick because Jeremiah Love goes at number 2, and that's just stupid. Like, that's not going to happen. So I restart it. And Sonny Styles was there every time at number 4, which I think is insane. I think he should be off the board before Arvel Reese, but I've also got a soft spot in my heart for players that are off-ball linebackers because I just think it's a more important position than people say it is. But Elijah Surratt brings in ability for just more depth at receiver, which is, like I said earlier, something that's going to be very important for the Tennessee Titans team, and just getting more young players for Cam Ward, and just throw as many darts as you can at wide receiver. And then Dunker just brings more stability and flexibility at that offensive line spot. If I'm not mistaken, let me pull up my draft board real quick here. Not my draft board, my mock draft thing. And see. So he's an offensive guard out of Iowa, 6'5", 315 pounds. He is ranked 81.74 prospect grade on PFSN, which is what I've been using. I did use PFF, but some of the guys that I watch, they recommended PFSN, which is just Pro Football Network, their mock draft simulator, which allows you to combine different big boards as well, whether it be Consensus, ESPN, that kind of thing. So they gave him a 9.75 physicality grade, 9.33 power grade, 8.5 awareness, 8.5 size, 8.3 core and grip strength, and 7.9 mobility. I think that is just a telltale sign for just ability, right? If you're getting above, if you're getting an 8.6, that's well over passing. You're going to be a plus starter eventually, especially with the right coaching. And then he also played in the Senior Bowl, and according to their little note from the Senior Bowl, Dunker was a brick wall on one-on-ones, taking reps at both guard and tackle, so he might have that flexibility, which is huge in the NFL. His steady center of gravity, ability to play square while using his hands, and stifling anchor all proved paramount. And he scored one of the only wins on TJ Parker all day, redirecting Parker inside with torque and lower body drive when Parker's first move stalled out. It still remains to be seen which position Dunker will play at home. Will find a home at long term, but his lateral mobility appeared strong enough at either spot on Tuesday, and his experience shined through with his point of attack strength and technical consistency. So that is our Titans deep dive. My last note on this mock draft is this was the first team I considered Jeremiah Love for, but I just think it's too early, and I still have hope for Tyjae Spears, and I don't think Tony Pollard. I think after his last season, which was better than I expected it to be, I don't think I could, with right mind, draft a new running back because, like I mentioned, he's older, but he's had a pretty decent season for all things considered. Now, our outro. Our team timeline. So, we've tried to do this unsuccessfully the last couple of videos, but what do we think the timeline is for the Titans to get back to the playoffs? I'm not talking about winning the division. I'm not talking about anything crazy, but I'm talking they make it to the playoffs. I think being in the AFC, it could be in the next 2 seasons, especially their division. It depends on how the Titan or Texans offense does.
I think, if I'm being honest, I think they have to take the Raiders approach.
Mm.
Um, and I know that it's like, well, how are you gonna take the Raiders approach when they're already ahead of the Raiders approach? Let's be honest, the Raiders are well ahead of schedule right now. Than what Way ahead of schedule because of who they've brought in, the signings that they've made,
Yeah.
and the pieces they have. When I say they need to take the Raiders approach, meaning they need to take a running back and they need to build themselves up. You have your quarterback, you go get your running back. You can't survive without a running back. You have to be able to run the football. And if you can't get guys to stay on the field, you need to go get a guy that can stay on the field.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to kick yourself in the butt if you don't take Jeremiah Love and then he be really good. There's teams that kick themselves in the butt for not taking Saquon Barkley when they could have.
I
The
did.
Giants are kicking themselves in the butt because they let Saquon Barkley go. Don't let that happen. Dable, I don't think is going to allow that to happen. I think he's going to go get his running back. Same situation with Saquon Barkley. He's going to go get the running back, and we're going to build from there. Okay? We may not be good next year, but we're going to show our promise. We're going to be a year behind what the Raiders kind of timeline was, and then we move and we improve on next year. Okay, let's go improve the defense. We need to improve this offensive line. I think it was ranked 22nd. Improve it. Get some more time together. Cam Ward, let's maybe have a year like what Caleb Williams had, and we'll figure it out from there. I think they're closer than what people think because of how bad the division is, how bad the conference could be. There's some bottom feeder teams that are just always there. The Jets are always going to be down
Mm-hmm.
there. The Dolphins are going to probably end up moving back down there. The Titans aren't a bottom feeder team. They're a 60% of the team. They're a two-thirds team where they're going to be in the playoffs or they're just going to be outside of the playoffs. For the past few years, they've been a bottom feeder team. I think they can move back up there. They have a decent quarterback. Get him some help on that offensive line. You have a piece in Wandale Robinson. You move Calvin Ridley. Go get a second or a third for Calvin Ridley in
They're
this
not getting
draft,
a
if I'm
second or
being
third from
honest.
that guy. I promise you that.
And we'll see what we can do from there. But I think they're closer than what expected. I say 3 to 4 years they could be back in the playoffs. But if they have a Bears approach where they just magically everything just starts clicking and they find themselves in the playoffs, it could be 2 years.
Yeah. I did also, so going back to the mock draft, my other option, so Sonny Styles, I was either between him or Jeremiah Love, but for the points that I mentioned earlier, I came down to Sonny Styles because I think he's just going to be a plus player, and bringing a defensive-minded head coach and just what he's done with Dre Greenlaw, I think that's going to be a really good fit. Now, between Emmanuel McNeil Warren, my other option that I had and was floating back and forth in my brain was Jadarian Price, who was also there almost every time in that second overall or second round pick, and I think he could also just be a good option there.
If you're taking
Bringing in that
Jadarian
running
Price in the
back.
second round, there's problems. Jadarian Price is a fifth round at max just because of the lack of production he has had. Yes, he's a good running back that has promise, but he didn't have that production in reps wise in college because he was behind Jeremiah Love. Jadarian Price, running backs are not getting drafted outside of the first round that early. If you're not a first round talent, if you're a first round talent, a running back, you're going to go in the second round. If you're second round, you're probably going the fourth round. If you're fifth or sixth, because running backs are just not valued. There's not very many spots, and we want guys that can just sit back and be ready to go. And Jadarian Price is a guy like that. Can he fit well in that system? Maybe,
Mm-hmm.
but don't kick yourself in the butt by not getting this talent. If Jeremiah Love is what everyone's saying Jeremiah Love is, don't miss out. Don't miss out.
Yeah.
You can't. He is a generational piece that you can help build with him, with Cam Ward. You'll figure out your defense later. Robert
Mm-hmm.
Saleh can make things work with little pieces. We'll go get this next offseason, guys are going to want to play for Robert Saleh. He might be able to pick some guys off of free agents from the Niners.
Yeah.
Fix that offense. We'll figure out the defense. Give it 3 years. They could be back.
So going back to the timeline for me, I think it really comes down to the Texans and how their offense does. CJ Stroud has not looked the same since his rookie year. And I don't believe that the Colts offense with what they're doing with Daniel Jones is going to be the proper move. Um, so I think if the Texans offense continues to flounder, they could be a wild card team in the next 2 or 3 years as well. So getting back and finishing out this episode, let us know down below who you guys' favorite moves have been this offseason for the Tennessee Titans. Um, and don't forget to find us on all the things down below, whether it be YouTube, which is where this video will go live um, permanently, TikTok, where we post little clips, whether it be from episodes or I just go in if there's breaking news or just some fun stuff, pull out my little Adam Schefter and just get some breaking news out there. And then, of course, we've got our Instagram as well, where we'll post some graphics every once in a while and also some little clips. So without further ado, like, subscribe, comment, share, all that fun stuff. And we'll see you guys next week with more deep dives and then another mock draft coming at you guys next week. Peace.